I think we can have a...
Where's that noise coming from? Got it. Okay.
That's better.
That's better. Okay.
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 Am I recording? Hang on a sec.
I don't think you are. I think Gabrielle is with his
No,
dodgy
I
AI system.
thought I was recording,
No, the recording is in progress, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't think it's me.
Try, Mark, please.
It's me. It's okay.
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 All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Firstly, I'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting. And I'll stop sharing the screen actually, so we can all see each other. Yeah, this is the first virtual meeting we've had since I think actually it was January last year. And obviously we did meet up in Hong Kong, and we had a sort of mini meeting in Cape Town, which I think was great. And we always do that in terms of if we have forums as well. But what I'd like to do is welcome everyone, and we can go and do introductions shortly because I'm not sure everyone knows everyone, and I think it would be good to make sure we can all put names to faces. But I'd also like to introduce Charles, who I'm sure many of you know already anyway, who's taking over as chair of this group from Anna, who I think had been doing it for 3 years, and I think obviously she was incredibly busy, so it seemed an appropriate time to sort of change it around a bit. Also, because we're getting a lot more members in terms of associations from the APAC region, which obviously is where Charles comes from. So I don't know, Charles, if you'd like to say a few words.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Well, a lot of very familiar faces on the call, which is always nice, and a couple of new faces as well. And it's nice to have Elizabeth, our CEO from the OMA in Australia, on the call as well. I know she's had a very busy day, so thanks for joining us, Elizabeth. I think Richard talked about the fact that we have got together as a group, obviously every year at the annual Global Congress, and it's always a really fantastic day. There's a great sense of sort of collaboration within the room. We really get to unpack a lot of the issues that we all share as associations across the world. We talk about the fact that there's so much overlap with the things that we're doing. So the opportunity for us to share the challenges that we have, I guess also to share the strategies and the programs that we're putting in place to overcome those particular challenges, is something that this group could really benefit from if we can come together on a regular basis and share and collaborate across those things. So, rather than just doing that when we get together on an annual basis, we really want to try and achieve that in between with these quarterly catch-ups. And of course, once we've established these connections, and I know what's happening already, is there's a lot of catch-ups in between. I know Elizabeth has been particularly helpful over the last month with Praveen, with some things that they're trying to do with the IOAA in India at the moment, and a few others as well. So that's what this group's all about. But for this forum to be as valuable as possible for everyone, it's really important that everyone leans in. And, prior to these calls, if there's a specific subject or a specific challenge that you're dealing with in your market, if you're able to share that with us, I'm sure a few people will come to this forum with a lot of answers, with a lot of strategies and programs that they've undertaken to address exactly the same issue that you're probably contending with within your own markets. So it's a fantastic group. I've really enjoyed working with everyone, and everyone's been incredibly helpful over the last few years as we've been involved, and we look forward to expanding that further across the group. So what we might do is then just run across Richard, as you said, the group, and get everyone just to introduce themselves and the region or the association that they're representing.
Yeah, I think everyone's charts looks slightly different, but
shall we kick off with the Woo people on the call first? Yeah. Richard, go on.
So Richard, I'm the CMO of WOO.
I'm Mark Fliss, I'm the COO. Heather?
Hi, I'm Heather, so I deal with the database and any membership queries.
Anna,
Anna Pisano, Event Director.
Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca, helping Jane and Wu for the Greater China membership development.
Shall I carry on the screen, Richard? Just go
Yeah,
to
no, it's
people as I
fine.
see them. Ichiro.
Hello, I'm Ichiro. I'm a representative of the Japan Digital Signage Consortium.
Thanks. Felix.
I'm Felix. I'm the managing director of SPR Plus, the research body in Switzerland, and representing the Außenwerbung Schweiz, the Swiss Out-of-Home Association.
Thanks, Felix. Simon.
Hi, I'm Simon Wall from Tractor Media Holdings in South Africa, and myself and Rochelle are both here as representing the Out-of-Home Media South Africa, who's currently just starting out and setting up our association. So we're here to learn a bit more. It's been a bit slow over the last few years.
Thanks, Simon. Chris.
Yeah, Chris Colbeck with the IBO USA, representing all the independent, basically non-public traded companies in the United States.
Thanks, Chris. Felipe.
I'm Felipe. I'm the founder and CEO of Hello, one of the largest Brazilian digital out-of-home company, and I'm representing the Brazilian Out-of-Home Association.
Thanks, Felipe. Daewon.
Oh, hello, my name is Daewon. I'm a vice chairman of Korea OH Association and a founder of Podo Media, which is the first programmatic ad network company in Korea.
Thanks, Daewon. Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth McIntyre. I'm CEO of the Outdoor Media Association of Australia, and we represent around 90% of the industry, asset owners, suppliers, and publishers.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Rochelle. Simon's stolen your thunder a bit, but go on.
Sorry, hi, yes, I'm Rochelle. I'm also from Tractor Media Holdings, as I introduced me from South Africa.
Thanks. Leonardo, welcome.
Welcome, hi. I'm representing Central de Odor, another Brazilian trade association from the out-of-home sector here.
Agatha.
Hi, from Spain. I'm Agatha. I'm the marketing director of Exterior Plus, but now I'm representing, in fact, La Fede, our out-of-home association, with Elia Mendez.
Right, thanks, Agatha. Tim, hiya.
Hi everyone, I'm Tim. I lead Outsmart. We're the UK out-of-home trade body. Our members are all media owners.
Thanks, Tim. Praveen.
Hi, I am the CEO with the Indian Out-of-Home Association, and we kind of represent essentially media owners as of now, okay, and intending to actually sort of branch into the other ancillary partners, but right now about 80% of the media owners in this country that we present.
Yeah, thanks. Daniela, welcome. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you. And I'm the president of AIPE, that is an Italian association of media owner in out-of-home. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Irina, nice to meet you as well.
Nice to meet you all. My name is Arina Ureche. I'm the general manager of BRAT, which is a Romanian JIC. It's a joint industry committee. We are in charge here with measuring audience mainly, but for 5 years already we are involved also in out-of-home, and we launched the out-of-home measurement, audience measurement here for the entire industry, but we cover like 80% of the companies, not all of them.
Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Elia, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you all, Mark and everyone. Well, I'm Elia Mendez. I'm the managing director and also the general secretary of the association for all companies that provide services on advertising, marketing, and communication. And outdoor is one of our biggest sections. So I'm with Piedad here and Agatha, and I'm delighted just to see you all.
Thank you. Hi.
Thank you.
Hi, and good to see you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Hyun. I'm a WO Korea ambassador, and media owner of Seoul Incheon International Airport. Nice to see you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Hein.
Yeah, Hein.
Angie Billups.
Hi, I'm Angie. I represent WU in Southeast Asia, and I'm based in Malaysia.
Thanks, Angie. Jack, nice to see you again.
Oh.
You there, Jack?
Are there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, sorry, we're just doing introductions. I know you joined late, so it's okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jacques Dupré. I'm the World Out of Home Director for Africa. I'm also the Group CEO of ProVantage. And we're also members of OMSA, which is the South African Association, Trade Association. Nice to meet all of you.
Thanks, Jack. Agum, good to see you again.
Hi, good to see you again, all. Everybody, my name is Agung. I'm the Vice Chairman of Indonesia Out of Home Association, and I also work for the media owner in Indonesia. I work in the marketing team. So nice to see you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Agung. Hello, Kai.
Hi, I'm Kai Tesla. I'm MD of the German Outdoor Media Association. Good to see you all.
Thanks, Kai. Guillermo. You're muted, I think. Can't hear you, Guillermo. No, can't hear you.
Okay, we'll
Guillermo Shamalu in South America anyway, so we'll come. Can you hear us, Guillermo? No, we can't hear you. Sorry. Okay, we can't hear you, so I'll introduce you anyway. Thanks. Mats.
Hi everyone, Mats Ronne here. I am the chairman of the Swedish JIC.
Thanks, nice to meet you again. Francesca, you there?
Yes, hi Mark. Hi everyone. I'm Francesca Vincenti from Picasso, an out-of-home media company and WOO ambassador in the Middle East.
Thanks, Francesca. And finally, Hamid. You there? You hear us, Hamid? No, we lost him. Okay, well, I think Hamid's from Pakistan. If he comes back on, I'll
I think he is, yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you back in anyway. So okay, that's it. So handing back to you, Richard. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Well, I've made my first mistake of the meeting because I'm just going to launch this flag, and I'm very aware that I haven't got the Romanian flag on there, so I do apologise. But I think I put this up because when we first started this, when I first started, probably 5 years or so ago, we had a handful of associations, and I think it's been very much the view of the WWO board, Tom, that associations are critical to our role. And laid out there are the countries we now have association representation. As I say, we haven't got Romania there, Brat, so please accept my apologies. Mark pointed that out about quarter of an hour before the meeting, so I am sorry. But this list continues to expand. We've just added New Zealand, as Mark mentioned, Pakistan, Italy are new members in terms of the associations. So we see this as a critical group, as Charles outlined, in terms of the sharing of best practice, etc. So moving on to the agenda, I think this is very much about wanting to hear from you, but we want to just give a quick update in terms of WWO events, but also on the work stream work that we've been doing as well, which many of you have been involved in as well. So I'm just going to hand over to Mark now in terms of the event side.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I'm sure all of you are aware of the events that we run. We run 3 events a year. I think of it like a pyramid when I explain it to people. We have a regional event early in the year, we have the global event in the middle of the year, and then later in the year we have another event. This year so far we've done events in Cape Town, a regional event which is fantastic, highly successful, and also our global conference in Hong Kong where many of you were there. Our next one coming up, we're heavily in the planning now for the Milan Forum, the European Forum, in November, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in November, 4th to the 6th. We've already got people booking in. The first 2 people who booked were from Southeast Asia and America, so it's a global audience, even though the content will be European based. So that's coming up now.
Yeah, just one thing, Mark. What we
yes.
will do is, as in all of these forums and congresses, we will have a National Associations meeting. This will take place 2 to 5 on the Monday, and we'll follow similar lines to this meeting, but clearly the focus will be on particular issues within Europe, and that will shift the emphasis in terms of how the meeting goes. But essentially, it will be the same: making contacts, sharing information, and sharing best practice.
Thanks. Yeah, Richard will send out an invitation, but any of you who are intending to attend in Milan will be obviously invited to that meeting, but it will be on the day before the conference, as Richard said, on the Monday afternoon beforehand. So after that, Christian's going to be our keynote speaker on day one. Christian Schmalz, I'm sure all of you know, joint CEO for Ströer. Christian's spoken at a couple of events of ours in the past. Also, he's been a long-term board member, although he left the board last year as part of our rotation of speakers, board directors. So we'll be announcing more speakers in the near future. In the next week or two, we'll have more speaker announcements for that. Next slide.
Yeah, so now moving on to
Mexico, which is our global event next year. We'll be in Mexico City. We're working on plans for that right now. We're just tying down the final hotel details before we open registrations. They'll be open probably November time. Usually we open it well before Christmas. So hopefully we'll see you all there. And then after Mexico, well, actually the regional events next year, we're still in the planning stages. So no announcements at this point, apart from Mexico and Milan imminently. Thanks very much.
And this is a WOO forward calendar. Obviously, it's not very forward now as we get to the end of the year. So what I'll probably be writing out is to encourage you to send us details of your events so we can highlight the key ones within this calendar. We're also looking at moving away from this slightly clunky Excel PDF thing to having something on our website, which will be more dynamic and more useful and generally better. But that will happen. We're doing quite a bit of work on the website at the moment, so that will probably happen for the new year, realistically. Just the next section I want to go on is just to look at some work stream updates. Reasonably quiet at the moment on that, so this won't take long, but I'll go through these quickly. These, for those of you who haven't been to one of our congresses, we tend to focus on these different key growth areas. And at the moment, the specific work, Gideon unfortunately is in Ireland today and couldn't make it, but with audience measurement, I think where we are is obviously 3 years ago in Toronto, we relaunched the audience measurement guidelines. But what we're now in the process of doing, and Gideon will be starting this process very shortly, is looking at how we can extend those guidelines, get more depth in. Obviously, there are people that aren't represented at the moment, and that's something we want to really rectify so we can make the document more update, more informative, more useful for people. And so Gideon will be working on that really in Q4. So probably October, November onwards, he'll be writing out to establish more information so we can, as I say, broaden it and keep the document being a very live document, because there's a lot going on, particularly in the next year. I think there's quite a bit going on with Root, certainly with Australia and the OMA. And move. So this needs to be more of a living document, and that will be the aim of what we'll be doing in the next year. What we'll also do is, it's interesting, whenever we do any sort of membership survey, audience measurement always comes up as the priority issue. So we'll clearly be focusing, or we focus on that in all of our congresses, all of our forums, and you can just see the list of how we will bend it slightly to what we think are the points of interest for a specific market. We're just at the moment looking to how we present it in Europe, and I think for the Europe Forum, and I think we might well be introducing some new markets that we haven't really shared in terms of what they're doing within audience measurement. So I think we'll have announcements out on that in the next couple of weeks. The Global Expenditure Survey, I mean, Gideon, when he discusses this, would always say, thank you very much, because you as a group are the core group in terms of providing information on this. Not going to go into much detail. We obviously launched it at the Hong Kong Congress, and there's been a document sent out following that, which hopefully you all will have seen. You should, I think I've sent it specifically to this list. But what we're going to do, what we did this year was build on what we've done before by asking a few extra questions. Clearly, all the time we're looking to generate, use additional markets to just increase the overall accuracy and coverage of the piece. So, and this year we had some questions on audience measurement and also associations. As you can see, the global spend is up to 42 for 2023. But we're also seeing positive signs for growth in terms of 2024. This was the figure on the right is obviously the forecast that we asked everyone to give. So next stage, you'll be pleased to hear we won't be asking anything until February 2025. But that we've always, when I first launched this, we did quite a complex questionnaire, and several of the wiser people on the board said, you don't want to make it too complicated. So we very much simplified it, and I think that has worked much better. But what we are asking is a few additional questions on industry consolidation, associations again, and also the state of audience measurement. So final area is sustainability. Many of you will know Katrine Robertson, who is one of our board members who has been leading the sustainability initiative for WOO. She's actually had some problems with her shoulder, so has been slightly out of action for the last few months. But I had a call with her a couple of days ago, and it's fair to say, and anyone who knows Katrine, she has all of her energy back. So I think we'll see more energy going into this area, because continually it seems to be and is being demonstrated as an area that our clients and our customers are very interested in. What we will be doing in the next probably 10 days or so is launching our annual sustainability survey. So when you get that, I'd ask that you look if you can fill that in. It's really to get a benchmark measure of how our industry is doing in terms of sustainability. Other things, we have the sustainability website, and what we'll be doing is enhancing that with a platform that allows non-members to get a taste of what's on there and maybe encourage them to join, but increase the visibility of this website. What I would say is I presume everyone on this call has access to our website. If you haven't, please contact Heather, because she is the person who can sign people up to the website as such. And the sustainability part of the website is only a small part of what is a much bigger website with a lot of rich information on it. So as I said, if you're not signed up, please contact Heather, and she will be able to help on that. And finally, as I said, I had a conversation with Katrine a couple of days ago. The Sustainability Task Force, which was set up last year, she will be bringing that together, and I think there'll be some change in membership as well to reflect how things are changing and some individuals, their own focus. But she will be bringing that again together in October. I think to sort of relive that and get that going again. So that's an update on the WOO initiatives. This is a final thing which I know Broadsign last year or earlier this year did a survey on what the name of is it classic, is it standard, is it traditional? This is something we've done, and I think it's an area that WOO will go back to, looking in terms of nomenclature and different language and names used across out of home. I think the more consistency we can add to this, I think is more will be increasingly useful. So this is a bit of a watch this space. We need to plan how we're going to do that, but looking at terminology, I think will become increasingly important for us. So that's the WOO piece. Obviously, the next session is around sharing common issues. The list here was driven really from out of Hong Kong, some of the key things that were raised by the associations during the meeting in Hong Kong. And so just moving on to that. But what I'd like to do is really open it up to the floor in terms of what's particularly happening in terms of your side. And I know, because I work quite closely with him otherwise, that Tim, you've had some things going on, particularly in the UK and Scotland. So maybe as a start, with regards to legislative threats, maybe you'd like to kick off, Tim.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So where we've got issues really is a sort of a climate of very gradually increasing regulatory threats. And by what I mean by that is a creeping sense of more and more restrictions on certain categories of advertising that are being effectively banned in out of home. They pretty much affect council contracts, so they're led by local councils and local authorities in the different regions of the UK, rather than a complete national ban. So they affect effectively public landlords rather than private landlords. So we see, for example, the most, I think, prolific one is restrictions on HFSS advertising, which stands for advertising of foods that are high in fat, salt, or sugar. But even that term, HFSS, the language now is changing so that it can capture a wider set of products. So whilst the current restrictions define it as HFSS, we're now seeing the use of a different acronym called UHF, which stands for unhealthy foods. Sometimes it's called LHF, less healthy foods. But the one that we're most worried about is something called UPF, which stands for ultra-processed foods. And ultra-processed foods captures such a vast range of food products, including, for example, bread, and including something like ham, that if that definition was ultimately adopted in terms of what's in and what's out and what you can and can't advertising, it would have a very significant impact on basically, the food category as a whole. Where we are in the UK at the moment, the previous government, we had a new government elected about 2 or 3 months ago. The previous government brought forth legislation that banned HFSS advertising on television and online. That hasn't come into effect yet. It comes into effect during 2025. And the arguments put forth for why we're seeing these advertising restrictions is because of a obesity crisis in the general population, and particularly in children. And so they're projecting the cost to our health services for dealing with obesity, and that runs into the hundreds of of billions over people's lifetimes. So that's the argument for these kinds of bans. The fact that it's happened, or that it's about to happen on TV and online, that is a national framework and shows that the government's serious about it. But where we get affected in out of home is, as I mentioned earlier, at the local level. So councils are now pretty much adopting HFSS bans on every time a contract is renewed. We've got about 300 councils in the UK. And of those that have some kind of advertising estate, whenever you see the renewals, in 18 months or 2 years or 3 years, they're already talking about implementing an HFSS ban on that. It only affects public land. It's not private landlords, but there are rumours that our new government are very keen to empower local authorities. They're quite keen on decentralising and devolving central power to local authorities, thinking that's a better way for government to function. And we are hearing rumours that they're exploring the question of, could councils have powers to enforce these restrictions on private land as well. So that's, as I said, HFSS is the most prolific, it's the biggest one. But what we're also seeing now is, in order to reach net zero, we're seeing councils take on additional restrictions. So things such as fossil fuel companies. Also, that then, when you talk about fossil fuels, that then starts to capture things like airport advertising, or rather, sorry, advertising of airports, advertising of airlines, advertising of any vehicle that is not fully electric. So even hybrid vehicles will fall under a fossil fuel ban. So yeah, it's quite a difficult situation. Our arguments as out of home, our strategy is effectively to say, just banning certain categories in out of home. In the UK, out of home represents about 3% of all advertising spend. We're a very, small slice of the advertising pie. So kind of banning it in fossil fuels, for example, in out of home isn't going to reduce the carbon emission output of the UK. So our argument is that these measures are ineffective. The second argument is that less advertising revenue on public landlords means less revenue for councils, because they take part obviously in a revenue share. And many of our councils in the UK are extremely underfunded. Some are going bankrupt. So adding to that financial stress seems completely counterintuitive. And thirdly, the more positive argument is to use out of home to promote healthier lifestyles. So yeah, that's basically where we are with it at the moment.
Thanks, Tim. I'm going to just jump in quickly, because I think this is one of the really, really important challenges that we all need to collaborate on, because what we're seeing with the councils in the UK is a domino effect. And it will start in one council and it will gradually make its way across the country. And unfortunately, these dominoes don't stop at the borders. They will definitely reach over into new territories, because much like we all talk as an international group, so do governments and so do councils. And in fact, I saw in Australia this week, we have a very big parliamentary debate about the total ban of gambling advertising in Australia. And I read an update on that on the BBC website earlier this week. So you can see just how far those conversations spread into everyone's territories that are on the call today. So it goes beyond, high fat, sugar, salt foods. It's going into fossil fuels that Tim mentioned. It's going into gambling. It's going into alcohol. These are really very, very significant threats to our businesses. And even if it's only on government-owned assets, whereas in a market like Australia, government-owned assets represent about 60% of the total spend in our sector. So it's a very significant issue. And I know I've had conversations with a number of you on the call over the past few years regarding the challenges around regulation within your own markets. And we've shared some of those strategies and programs that we've put into place. So it's absolutely vital, I think, that we understand what's happening in your regions, and we understand also what the strategies and programs that you're undertaking are. And then beyond that, Tim, what success you're having. So for my question for you is, with that three-pronged strategy that you talked about, do you feel like you're getting any traction or having any success with that?
In all honesty, not really. No. I mean, this is being driven by policy decisions. So the success that we have is within councils, the people that look after the contracts are not the councillors themselves. So the councillors are having their meetings and saying, we need to do something about obesity or sustainability or gambling or vapes or whatever it is. They're having their debate. The guy who's got the contract with the media owner is saying to the media owner, look, the councillors are talking about this. What can I say to them? So that's kind of where we are with it. So in my view, we're not reversing it. What we're doing is managing it. So we're putting it off. We can arm that contract person to say, look, if you do this, we're going to take a 10% or a 20% hit on our revenue coming from our estate. Do you want to do that? You know, so it's really about empowering those people in the councils who look after the contracts, giving them the information. And they obviously do that through their media owner.
It's almost, isn't it, if they've started the conversation at the council and there's been no representations made, you've almost missed the opportunity. And we talked about this in Hong Kong, and we said to everyone in the room, even though you may not get a sense of this regulation within your own market, but it is absolutely inevitable. It's coming, and you need to get onto the front foot now. And what I might do is I'll just tip Elizabeth into this conversation, because and to talk about the strategy that we adopted in Australia around high fat, sugar, salt foods with a education campaign that we've run in conjunction with the government. So it's been, so far, I would argue, quite a successful strategy. But Elizabeth, if you could give everyone an update on that, that'd be great.
Charles, before you do that, I think Elia's got a question.
I missed that.
It's all right.
Yep.
Elia.
Hi. No, it's, I mean, in regards to what you're telling about the excess of regulations. I mean, here in Spain, for instance, we are suffering very much this. We had a very, very hot summer with regulatory issues that affects outdoor advertising. For instance, I mean, in July, we have just to send allegations to the General Highway Law that they want to change. And they include also interference in urban land, which is completely absurd. And taking into account that, for instance, in Spain, each autonomous community has its own outdoor regulations. So we have to fight for that. And also, today we have just sent allegations to the draft law that they want us to put on prevention of alcohol consumption and its effects on minors. So they limit, for instance, a space to 200 meters, and there is a very ambiguous definition about the spaces where advertising has to be prohibited. So this affects not only other consumers, which is the other consumers, but also they demonize brands. So for example, of beers, regardless of whether they sell 0.0 beer, prohibiting the use of brands in sponsorships, for example, sports and shows, a very general issue, which is completely absurd. So I mean, I see that in your country you're having this problem, but in Spain we're suffering the same thing. And use is something that is very important. We have to be together, all together, you know, just to create a sort of a group to fight to this excess of regulations that is very ambiguous in a lot of.
Unfortunately, I'm not surprised to hear any of that, sadly. And the truth is, as associations, we need to resource up and invest more in this part of what we do. But I might throw it to Elizabeth to talk about the strategy that we adopted in Australia, but just in this case around high fat, sugar, salt foods, but there's also, you know, regulation coming across other areas that we're working on as well.
Thanks, Charles. And yes, we have, it feels like in Australia, high salt fatty foods is a bit like whack-a-mole. As soon as you've set one state down, then another state gets a whiff of it. And unfortunately, everyone has also had news that they think that what they did in London was a really great success. And if we could just get some more surveys to prove that that actual study that came out of there was a load of rubbish, that would be great. But what we've done in Australia is that we have a healthy eating campaign, and it's been quite successful in terms of the amount of the audience that it's reached, and it's also made state health departments look really good. They're the same departments that are banning out of home. So what we've been able to do is we've conducted this at our members' cost, this healthy eating campaign. And when we go in and see state departments and they say that they want to ban advertisements with the high salt fatty foods, we do now say to them, well, if that's not going to count for anything, we will withdraw our campaign. And what we've been able to do is align our healthy campaign with their own objectives as a department, which is to, you know, obviously reduce obesity. So it's sort of strategically putting them in a position where if they ban what they want to do with us, then they're going to lose one of their key ways of reaching their own objectives. But in saying that, and I'm not sure whether a lot of you are familiar, but we actually self-regulate quite significantly through our MOVE system. So there's no high salt fatty foods advertised within 150 sightline of any school. There's no sort of fast food restaurants or sugary drinks. But now what we're finding is that these groups are going into parts of our regulation that aren't covered, which is in transit. So now they're trying to stop all of that, so all the parts of our self-regulation that isn't covered, which is only buses and trains, and they're normally government assets. So that's the other aspect that we're dealing with at the moment. Charles, I don't know whether I know we've got not much time, so but if anyone wants to know about that campaign, please just let me know and I'll send it through.
Yeah, so just to give a bit more context, you know, our members invest a total of about $6 million worth of media assets to that campaign on an annual basis. And the other thing that we do importantly is that we research the results of that campaign heavily. So we're able to go back to the government and the regulators and demonstrate that it's education that's going to make the difference to people's perceptions around healthy eating. It's not, you know, prohibiting advertising that's going to make the difference. So we feel like it's been a successful strategy, but, you know, they're looking at ways to come at us from other angles, which isn't unexpected. So we need to stay one step ahead. But yeah, we'd definitely be more than happy to share the details of that strategy with the group as well.
That'd be great. I'd love to see the research. That'd be really helpful. Thank you.
So
the other thing that we've, the only other thing that we've done is that we actually collated the data from supermarkets to show that the seasonal vegetables went up during that campaign, which is what the campaign was all about. So there's transactional data that we've overlaid on top of that as well.
Fantastic. That's be really helpful.
Yeah. So I think Richard mentioned briefly, I might drop it in now, Richard, about getting access to the website, which is really important. One of the things that we're working on for this exclusive group, the associations, is to give you access to an association's only area within the website. And what we'll be able to do is put the links and the information around these things so they're accessible to everybody at any time in between these calls. So we're not quite ready to do that yet, but that will be something that this group will have exclusive access to in the not too distant future.
Yeah, there's a fairly simple way of when you join up, having a box that ticks you as an association, which will then give you access to material we put in a sort of ringed area which about associations. So it's actually quite simple to do. We've just got to work out exactly how we do it, and then that should happen in the next couple of months. And obviously we'll communicate that through with you properly once that's done.
Does anyone else want to talk to high fat, sugar, salt foods or any regulation around that within their own markets or any strategies?
Interesting that in Germany, there's a new topic rising. It's about light pollution in the big cities. And that's coming, actually. We're talking about the officials. We did some research about it. And that's something that's going to come, I think, next year or maybe after next year. I'm not quite sure. And we did some research on digital screens and on force sheets and bus shelters, of course. And we're going to publish the results, I think, next week, or just get it next week. This research results, and I think we're going to publish it the next 2 or 3 weeks. We did 2 years of research because it's quite difficult, because in big cities, you have air pollution coming from the lighting of the streets, of course, from traffic, from everything, from the houses, and also about digital out of home and out of home in general. And so that's something we have to deal with in the nearer future in Germany.
That would be excellent, Kai, if you could share those details, because I can tell you that that is a live, very much a live issue in Australia that Elizabeth is dealing with as we speak. So anything people can contribute to that particular topic would be extremely helpful. So thanks, Kai.
Any hints on the results, Kai?
The results, it's interesting. The results, it really depends. For example, if you talk about billboards, which get light underneath, the first one is it depends on the poster, because it's not only the volume, it's also the what do you call, the German would say, the color, the temperature of the color. Because insects, for example, they can't stand blue, I think, or red. I'm not quite sure about this. So we did some research about what about if you put a white paper on it, if you put a blue, or so it's quite tricky. So I think in Germany, what the law will come up as saying if there's out of home close to protected areas, we might have to put it down. But in the very center cities, they will allow them. So as it seems at the moment, they're very keen on the results. And of course, digital out of home, if you lower the light, and it still works, and it can still show your spots, that helps too. So we've been doing this, of course, for energy reasons, for energy saving reasons. So the results are nothing really dangerous, but looking at the city as a whole and the whole pollution, then it might get dangerous in some areas.
So Kai, I have a question here.
Yeah.
Okay, could you kind of share with us what are the basic parameters and the premises for this research?
Of course.
This is a really hot topic right now in Mumbai. Okay,
Yeah.
and we're facing quite a bit of pushback on this. Okay, so if you could just share the premise, or maybe we could actually kind of institute a similar research in India as well.
Yeah. Of course. We have to translate it, but I think in the next 2 weeks we're going to get it.
Charles Leonardo has a question.
I would say the same. We are facing 3, how can I say, bills in our government about the pollution light. So if Kai would share this study with us, we'll be very, very grateful.
Okay,
good.
We might put you down
the main tweet in our market now.
We might put you down to present the findings in the next meeting as well, Kai, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And Kai, sorry. I was just going to say, in Australia, they're also blaming light pollution for obesity. That's yeah.
Well, we get it causing mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can I just make a comment, Charles, from the other side of the fence? Because many of you know, Heather and I actually are local councillors. So we see it from the other side of the fence as well. I mean, our council, we're not aware of anything coming through on such bans such as this, but a lot of this stuff comes from up on high, you know, from the national government, and it gets enforced on you. whether you like it or not. I mean, we're going through a thing at the minute with the National Planning Policy Framework, where they're trying to build on the green belt, you know, areas like that. But you know, our council budget, for instance, 70% of the budget goes on two things, which is adult social care and children's services. And so yeah, everything else has to be done from that final 30%. There's the intense pressure on the budgets. And so anything, you know, we whenever there have been things like, you know, 20 miles an hour bans or whatever, we've always fought against it as a council. And I'm pretty sure we would on anything that would affect this kind of thing as well, you know. So it's not always the council, you know, there are certain councils that will, you know, take this stuff and run with it. But most of it, when it does come about, it kind of is forced upon you, whether you like it or not, you know. So it's
I think it's an interesting insight, Mark, because I know we always talk about how challenged the councils are from a budgetary point of view. Yeah. And of course, one of the great benefits that the out-of-home companies bring is the funding of the infrastructure around bus stops and bridges and those sorts of things. And I know, Tim, in the UK, you did a great report last year. We've actually just commissioned Deloitte in Australia to do a similar report for Australia as well. And again, they're, I guess, you know, very, very telling and convincing reasons why these councils should be, you know, considering those decisions before they make them. And has that been the case with you, Tim, in the UK? Have you been using that with your representations?
Yeah, absolutely. And any external comms to councils, local government, national government, it's been a very successful and worthwhile report. We're also looking at creating some kind of out-of-home manifesto, if that makes sense. Sort of what the because as I said, with our new government, there's 335 brand new MPs. They don't know anything about out-of-home there, and which is a great thing, because it's an opportunity if we can almost take an industry manifesto to them and do that education piece about how out-of-home is different to other media, in that we do put bus shelters and telephone boxes and defibrillators and all that kind of stuff. No other media, advertising media, does that. So it's to kind of get the MPs to see us as slightly different, and to see us in a more positive light. So we're starting that work now. So as that progresses, obviously I'll come back and share with the group.
Can I ask the group, is there any other associations, I know the UK and Australia, that have commissioned a report like this to ascertain the value and the contribution of out-of-home within your own countries? Oh, it's interesting. So only two at the moment. I think, sorry, Praveen, you're on mute there. Yep.
Yeah, so we also in the process of doing this, okay, because we're facing kind of tremendous challenges right now across the country, and specifically in Mumbai, which is the largest out-of-home market. And the trigger point has been a collapse of a very large billboard, which actually sort of caused a death of about 70 odd people, and which has created kind of fairly negative impact across municipal corporations and municipalities across the country. So we've started it, so we kind of, and that's kind of hit the policy issues. And right now it's almost a knee-jerk reaction, and the policies coming out are really untenable, okay? And they will kind of destroy out-of-home, and at least the larger billboards, okay, almost in every city in this country. So you know, kind of, we've kind of put two things into place. One is that in India specifically, out-of-home always has had a very negative narrative, okay? There's been no talk about out-of-home contributing socially or to livelihood or to any other social means. So we put together a fairly kind of robust public relations program, okay, going into the media to try and overturn a narrative. And the basis of that is this study across about 25 cities that we are putting together, okay, in terms of what the contributions of out of home is from a social perspective and from an economic perspective in these large towns.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's interesting about this for me is those associations on the call that are still in their infancy and are trying to pull together a membership base. I guess, say, South Africa, Simon or Jacques or Rochelle, how are you managing these sort of regulatory issues within your own market if you don't have, you know, a large membership base within sort of the infancy of your association at this stage? Is someone making those representations?
Well, no, they're not, which is very problematic for us. You know, at this stage, OMSA is talking to government because they are the official body. But a lot of the discussions are about empowerment, SMME development, you know, allowing new entrants to participate in our industry. So nobody's having these type of discussions at the necessary levels. A lot of our cities also very problematic because the bylaws are not enforced. We've got a lot of rogue players, you know, emerging. So there are larger issues, I think, at play that we're concerned about, but I'm sure these issues will come. You know, I'm not isolated from the global village. So that's exactly why we're starting to really get involved in OMSA more actively, getting the association organized, writing a 3-year strategy. And one of the 3 pillars of our association strategy is regulation, which will encompass all of these things. And we want to put them on the table with government at a local level, national level, and get proactive. I think some of these campaigns, you know, we'll obviously have a chat to Simon and the rest of OMSA, but we need to get proactive and start proactively launching these campaigns and buy some goodwill from government and from a lot of these parastatals that control real estate, out of home real estate. And I think we're in the fortunate position that we can probably get ahead of the curve. So it is very much part of our strategy and our plan going forward. But at the moment, it's not happening.
I think also, thanks, Jacques. Just a quick one on my side. I mean, obviously, between myself and Jacques and some of the other members of OMSA, we're developing a sort of 3-year plan. If there is anyone on the call who is willing to share some of the work that they've done in terms of putting together a 3-year vision plan or something like that, if they could share it with us, that'll be amazing, because obviously that'll be nice to sort of start. You know, one of the joys of being late to market is that we can learn from your mistakes and obviously start doing things sort of afresh. So if you are able to share some of that, it would be fantastic. I can always just take this offline.
Not sure the internet's big enough to share all the mistakes, but we'll see how we go. But it seems as though it's a very sticky piece of the proposition to go to the media owners within your market to build up the association, because surely they're all aware of the threat of the regulation and they must understand that you need to come together to make those representations to government. Sorry, Praveen, you had
I was just basically echoing what Simon was saying, is that because you know, if we have to get ahead of the regulation curve, okay, we need to institute a strategy across the country, which is a little ahead of the curve, and we can anticipate what the regulations can, and specifically in case of digital, because right now digital is only in a couple of cities in India. And if we have to actually kind of take it at a national level, we'll have to go and convince the regulatory authorities that it is the future and it is something which they need to adopt. So it would be actually kind of, and I reached out to all of you last time, okay, asking for those studies and all that stuff. That was all part of that process to try and, you know, representing with various municipalities across the country, specifically on digital and on light pollution and stuff like that, because there's still a lot of apprehension that the digital billboards are going to cause a lot of accidents. So safety is a huge issue in their minds. Okay, and we've not been able to actually kind of negate it till now, but yes, we're working on a number of researchers, which also would kind of help us do that.
Well, we're going to share a report later in the meeting, Praveen, around in Australia we've done, which is around dwell times and digital billboards and whether or not they contribute to accidents, because yeah, it's another big area of regulation which we're working on. I'm sure will be a factor for most people on the call at the same time.
And also, we've done quite a lot of work. Obviously, anyone who's been to a forum or a congress, we've had Absen, Daktronics. They must be doing work on light pollution and adverse effects. So we can follow. I mean, Judd's on the sustainability task force, but we can follow up separately on that. Certainly in terms of getting some background, because they must be doing bespoke research on that, I would suggest.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we seem to have covered a lot around regulation. So I think we might sort of move on. As I said, we'll come back to it when we look at the presentation around the dwell time we've done here in Australia. One of the other things that, of course, we're all involved in is demonstrating out of home as a force for good, which we touched on with the Deloitte report that we've done in the UK. But also what we'd like this group to be doing going forward is, if you are putting into market anything around effective use of outdoor, how it works with other media, that we can share that amongst this group as well, because I understand that's a very big part of what we do as associations, is promoting the efficacy of the medium. And beyond that, the changes or challenges in sustainability, if you haven't had an opportunity to go onto the website, I would encourage you to do that. It's a great resource already. And I'm sure all of us have probably done some of our own work that we can contribute to that at the same time.
Yeah.
One of the other things that came up in Hong Kong was tax regimes. Now, that's something that's a little bit more difficult for us to deal with. But, you know, we're always open to hearing and understanding those challenges that you might face within your market, whether or not we've had a similar experience across the other associations. I'm not so sure. And I'm not sure what our ability to assist might be, but we're always open to having a conversation around those things as well. So before we move on, does anyone want to share or discuss anything around those common issues? Nope. Okay, we might move on then, Richard.
Okay. So yeah, the next stage is very much about sharing association initiatives. And if I move on, obviously the measurement stuff, anything you're doing, if we can focus that through Gideon, I think is probably the best bet. And he will incorporate it into the measurement guidelines. But before we maybe go on to Elizabeth, are there any other big initiatives in terms of measurement at the moment that the group would like to share?
From Japan.
Okay.
Finally, the Japanese JIC publicly released the RFP for the candidate to provide the OH measurement solution in the VAC granularities. So the 7 company and 2 groups are the bidders, and then I will on the process of the evaluation of the each proposal, and then we will finalize in. I think that the November will be choose the one of the solution providers.
Congratulations, Cheerio. That's a big step. So well done to you and your team. How long are you expecting then for the system to take to be built once you've nominated the successful tenderer? Cheerio? Hello?
Can you hear us, Achiro?
That question. Please.
Yeah, the question is, so once you've nominated the successful tenderer, how long will it take for them to build the system for you? How long do you anticipate that to take?
Also, it depends on this is the vary by the proposed candidate, but we are expecting the maybe within a year to launch the measurement system.
Okay. Oh, well,
That'd be
great.
hopefully.
Good luck with that. That's an exciting project.
The most of
Matt?
the candidate is mentioned that 20 to 24 months for the preparation, but our expectation is much shorter.
Yes, it may take longer. Matt, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to sort of inform you about something that's happening in Sweden. And you know, we talked a lot about cross-media measurement, and we're just entering into a new phase in that project. And we just had a first meeting this morning with PwC, who we will have them as, we don't call them auditors, but we call them sort of checkpoint guidance custodians or whatever we want to end up. So they're doing a project now for the entire industry in Sweden, where we go through all media points and sort of say verify what data do they use to report audience and at what level of the delivery system does that sort of figure come about, and sort of how transparent is it, how verifiable is it, and so on. So that the hope is that by the end of the year we'll have a first report where we've covered all the main platforms, classical media and digital media as well. So of course outdoor is very much involved in that. And the good thing, of course, is we're looking at all channels there, not just the digital channels, but classical channels as well, print, outdoor, TV, radio, and so on as well.
And what's the common metric for that measurement system? Is it just impressions, reach and frequency?
We're actually not looking so much at a common metric at this stage. It's just sort of verifying that the data that is available, because the language we use tends to sort of confuse people. Just to be clear that the data that you have on in this channel or on this platform, where in the delivery is that data actually being so to say defined or being measured, and how is it measured? Is it by the media owner? Is it by a third party? Is it by a transparent third party structure and so on? Just like you get sort of like a energy declaration you have on your appliances in a way. I mean, you have sort of a similar type of scale to verify how much data do we as a buyer, or do you as a buyer have when you're to assess your media planning, and what sort of level of confidence do you have in the data that's being provided, irrespective of the channel or the media provider?
So it's essentially a verification of each channel's measurement, and PwC will apply a factor, a confidence factor or something to each channel.
Well, we're not applying, just being transparent, saying that the closer you are to the receiver, the more, so say, the less sort of variance is there likely to be, because what you want to know is have people engage with this content irrespective of the channel. And therefore, the more the measurement is targeted at receiving the content, the more confidence you ought to have about the validity of the data. And the second part is who's providing the data. Is it the media owner themselves? Is it a third-party vendor that is exclusive for the media owner? Is it a third-party vendor that is common for all players in the category and so on? Just to allow you to assess how much can I trust the data? I mean, where is it being measured and how much can I trust the data? I think really are the two dimensions there.
And is this the first phase? Is there another phase beyond this that you're working toward?
This is sort of the second phase. We've had a self-reporting as the first phase. Now it's sort of, well, do we actually trust the media owners and the media vendors in what they're reporting? So
fantastic. It's something you've been talking about for a while. So
yes, yeah.
It's exciting. How long will this next phase take?
This phase now with PwC is for until the end of the year, basically. It's sort of a 3-month project is what they've scoped it to. I mean, sort of going through the data from each of the, not every media company, but all the main players that represent sort of a sizable share of advertisers' budgets, basically.
Wow. Okay. Oh, well, that's exciting. We look forward to further updates, Matt. That's very interesting.
It's interesting, Charles. We had a meeting a couple of days ago with unfortunately, Lex not here from Poland. He had to cry off this morning, but we had a presentation from a Polish on a Polish cross-media measurement system, which was very interesting. So I know Gideon's looking into that further, but we hope to give some more exposure to that in the coming months, but it's quite interesting too.
Day one?
Yeah, day one.
Yes, in Korean situation, we start first jig in beginning of this year, but it's been almost 9 months, but no progress. We just comparing telecom data, Wi-Fi data, and camera AI data. We are comparing and how we are trying to find out how to combine this data and stuff. But the thing is, in the committee, the most of data side is data producer. And Podo, my company, is the only company from the advertising industry. So tech guy, they don't really understand how to analyze in the advertisement field. So we have many confusion. So our association is preparing to publish WWO Audience Measurement Guide in translated version. We just got the approval from the WWO. I know Japan already did it, and it took us like several months, and we are now reviewing with the professor. We are redefining the vocabulary and stuff, and I hope this guideline can, give them a good understanding about what's the word standard and what's the guideline for the measurement. That's what we're doing right now for the audience measurement.
Yeah, thanks, Damon. Sounds like you need a circuit breaker, and the WAA guidelines is the perfect way to do it, I think. So good luck with that. Does anyone else have any audience measurement updates I'd like to share with the group? Okay, I think we might move on to the next section, Richard, if we can.
Let me just share.
So I think we might need to get Elizabeth to share her screen to give us a summary of the OMA dwell time study that was done recently here in South Australia.
You should be able to take it over there, Elizabeth.
Oh, sorry. It's just done that thing where it makes you, sorry, I'll be 1 second. I knew this would happen.
That's okay.
In the meantime, welcome, Georgia. Good to see you, or not see you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Georgia.
All right. I'm hoping this works now, everyone.
Yep, it's coming up. Yep, we can see it now.
All right. And yes, I know I've got a lot of tabs open.
You have a lot of tabs open.
All right. So I just wanted to remind everyone before I begin, that Australia is a really large country. It's not all inhabited. And so it's about inhabited by around 25%, and it's all around the coast. And every state wants to do their own thing. So no one really wants to take any lessons from other states. So what I was just going to talk to you about today was the impact of dwell times, what dwell times are like in Australia, what we did, and advocating for reduced dwell times nationally. The other thing that I'm not sure whether is happening in some countries, but it happens in Australia, is in New South Wales, every time one of our members establishes a digital sign, they have to monitor that for 18 months to see whether there are any crashes. And even though all of our members do this, we don't collate that information. We want to, and I'm going to make sure that we do, but there's never been any studies that have proven that dwell times have caused crashes, but we never did. We haven't done any studies that also have proven the opposite. So that's the reason for this study.
So Elizabeth,
we spoke just a little.
Sorry, Elizabeth, just quickly for people, dwell time is the spot length in Australia, because they may call that something different. So in Australia, what Elizabeth's saying is different states and councils will regulate how long or often the ads can rotate. So in some councils, it might be every minute. In other councils, it might be every 25 seconds. Obviously, the best outcome for the industry and our members is to be able to rotate the ads as quickly as possible. The best outcome would be 10 seconds across the country, but this study is to try and enable us to justify to councils and governments that even if we do increase that rotation, it's not going to contribute to accidents as a consequence. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Okay. So this was just to show you and what we go into state government departments around is how much that we contribute to the economy. So you'll see here that we've quantified that with $1.3 billion contributed to the Australian economy. And we've divided it up to a direct contribution, which is in their actual revenue. So a lot of our state departments are getting revenues from our members through advertising on the public assets. And the 719 million, the one in the dark, and that looks at all the infrastructure we provide to the economy, So that's your bus shelters and those types of things. So that's just a little snapshot of where things are at in Australia. And obviously, when we're talking with government revenue departments, they're trying to increase the amount of advertising revenue that they receive from out of home. So the challenges, as Charles kind of alluded to, is the longer or inconsistent dwell times mean that there's missed potential exposure for advertisers and therefore missed revenue for media owners, landowners, and obviously government. You'll see in a second in a slide that's coming up the different dwell times we have in every state. And if you can imagine our members that are national members, it's very difficult to sell and implement national campaigns with all these different dwell times. And states with longer dwell times lose their commercial competitive advantage. Sometimes it's just too hard for some of our advertisers to book in that state. So it's not conducive for the state and it's not conducive for the advertiser. So I'll just show you here. This looks like quite a complicated map, but this just goes to show you all the different dwell times per speed limit that go in every state. You'll see that Western Australia is the most complex, and that has been going on. We've just concluded a 3-year negotiation on those dwell times. But the two states I wanted to draw your attention to is South Australia, and that is 45 seconds. That's 45 seconds across the entire state. In Victoria, it's 30 seconds. And you'll see in New South Wales and Queensland, they've got very, very simple guidelines, under 10 seconds for over 80 kilometres an hour and 25 seconds for under 80 kilometres an hour. But just this slide should show you how complex dwell times are in Australia. Yeah.
Simon, have you got a question at this point? Sorry, Elizabeth.
That's all right.
Sorry to interrupt, Liz. Just for question of clarity, is this for still images or video?
This is digital. No, sorry, still images.
Still images only, so no video content.
We don't have video content, no, not on roads.
On roads, no. Okay. So this is what we tried to do. We wanted to obviously reduce the 45-second dwell time in South Australia because that's been the longest dwell time. And we also wanted to use this study as a little bit of an example to go to other states to show that dwell times, didn't increase risks of crashes or any hazards. So this has sort of taken us, again, nearly 2 years to involve the department. You'll see the timeline here. We monitored and collected the data collection late last year, and we've really worked with the government every step of the way so that they are feeling that they really own it. And what we're excited to know now is that based off this study, that they've released their tenders that will have a reduced dwell time. But here are sort of some of the things that you need to know what we were trying to look for. We were trying to look for whether there was any correlation between speed, violations and traffic conflicts with reduced dwell times, and whether there was any relationship between those. And we used a company called AMAG, which I understand is a global company, and they set up cameras, which I'm going to show you a little bit later, to see what happened in these two test sites. So we had one classic site. So we refer to static as classic in Australia. They're classic 100, in fact. So it's another controversial term, but we refer to classic as static as classic. So there was one classic site and there was one fixed digital site. And they were both conducted over what we would consider complex intersections. And the study was done over 4 weeks at 4 locations in South Australia. So what we made sure that we did was that we had 2 control sites identified, and these were with 2 of our members, so that there wasn't any bias to say that we were only representing one member. We were representing 2 of the major members. And there was one was a classic sign and another was a digital sign at fixed 45-second dwell time. The next, we tested 4 advertisement dwell times of 45 seconds, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, at 10 seconds at randomly enabled over 4 weeks at 2 locations. So these cameras were monitoring the sites the entire time. They were chosen by the project team because of their high traffic count and their complexity. And I'm hoping that this next slide, I'm hoping it works and you can see the video.
Yep.
So you'll see from this video, and I hope it's coming across, that every sort of car, you can see what speed they're going, and then you'll see the billboards here and what it identifies if there's been any conflicts. And conflicts can be in the form of pedestrians, cars coming closer to each other, or there being actual crashes. So we had these set up at those 4 locations. The results, well, they were really interesting. And in fact, some of them have actually been a little bit denied. Shorter dwell times did not have a negative impact on road safety. There was no evidence to suggest a statistically significant relationship between dwell times and crash risk. And there was actually more evidence from this study suggesting that shorter dwell times resulted in reduced conflict rates. And so the best outcome we had was for the 10-second dwell time. And when we talk about conflicts, conflicts mean that there's not necessarily a crash, but a car could have come close to another car and nearly have a crash. That's known as a conflict. But there was only one crash in this study, and the drivers were all at fault, and the billboard was in the absolute background. So what we've done now with local and this statistical evidence is that we've advocated to reduce the dwell time for 45 seconds in South Australia, and to align South Australia dwell times with New South Wales at the 10 seconds over 80 kilometres an hour. Unfortunately, they're very conservative. They have confirmed that they will lower it to 25 seconds, and not the 10 that we had hoped for, but we will take 25 over 45 any day. I hope I've sort of given everyone a good overview, but I'm happy to take any questions on that, or if you want me to revisit a slide.
No, I think that was pretty straightforward, and the results are obviously.
Sorry, Elizabeth. I suppose that light pollution, the Australian market has already overcome this issue. So you are not.
We haven't overcome the issue. It's just started. Light pollution has just started coming up.
Okay.
Yeah. It started in city, in councils though, rather than at a government, at state or federal level.
I think it's a really good piece of work, Elizabeth. We don't have this issue in the UK, so it's really interesting, like just even understanding that you have the problem in the first place with the spot length dwell time being related to the speed limit on that particular type of road, and then so many different areas having different ways of quantifying that. So quite a thorny issue. I think the research is a really straightforward, you know, and clear call to action for them to just, you know, get some proper regulation in, or consistent regulation.
Yeah,
It's very interesting. The one of the hardest debated topics in Western Australia was the dwell time on bus stops, and we negotiated very hard for that to be reduced down from 30 seconds to 10 seconds just on bus stops.
Yeah.
So dwell times are a big issue.
Yeah, we have. I mean, in UK, we have a planning code, an Outsmart kind of planning code for large format digital roadside. But there's only like literally one or two sentences in there about spot length, and it's basically it won't happen faster than once every 5 seconds, but I think it's predominantly standard practices between 8 and 12 seconds. And we also have static only unless consent has been granted for partial or full motion. We don't have very many roadside screens that are allowed to do full motion, but we do have some that are allowed to do sort of partial motion, or almost like slow motion. So it's an issue that doesn't seem to affect here. So it's just fascinating to understand that something that you guys have to wrestle with.
It's always interesting, Tim, when you go around to all the different markets all around the world and you see full motion digital on spectacular sites on freeways in some markets. Then you get back to your own country and you're not allowed anything other than a static image on a digital sign on a freeway. It's for
45 seconds.
Yeah, that's right. So there is significant variations across markets with these things, but you know, obviously, if anyone is having to deal with a similar issue within your market, I'm sure Elizabeth will be again happy to share that study. And I think the next step for us is to get that study peer reviewed to give it a little bit more credibility again. So it's a great result, because when you go into these things so collaboratively with the government, you cannot influence the outcome of that particular study. So the fact that it came back so strongly in favour of the 10-second dwell was a great relief and a great result. So it was a really good job by the OMA team.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone got anything else they'd like to share? I think back to you, Richard.
All right. Let's get back onto the screen. Yeah, so I think, I mean, it's really along some of the things we've already covered. But are there other things in terms of advocacy, government relation initiatives, or significant marketing or promotional activity that you are or have undertaken in the last 6 months or so that you could share with the group?
Yes, I think going forward, as you can all see, the way to get the best or the most value out of this quarterly catch-up is if we sort of come prepared. We'd love everyone to be able to lean in and share the programs and the strategies and give us some an understanding of the outcome of those at the same time. So going forward, if if you could do that, great. If not, you'll be hearing from us before the call to ask you what's going on in your market. So be ready for that.
Okay, Elia, did you have your hand up, I think?
Yeah, but I mentioned already, what we have done with our government, just to send allegations letters and all this stuff. So, and we are waiting for the response. So, but if you want, we can share also with you the letter we have sent to the president and the secretary of communication about something that really worries us very much, because they have been decreasing their investment in OEH since the 21st, more or less, and we are worried about that, because I think it's a part of their own agenda for I would say attacking the media, in certain aspects in our government here. And we have just sent this letter, very, very, I would say, hot letter to the president, in order just to sit down with them and then find out why they're just doing that to the outdoor media. And the other issue is the legal issue that I have already mentioned, which is the allegations on the law for highways and also on the law of consumer of alcohol, that they are restricting very much and in a very ambiguous way the advertising on outdoor. So that's the only issue. Thank you. We can share with you the letter if you want.
Yeah, and I think if there's anything else people think would be worth and other people would like to see, please share it with, if you can send it to me, to Heather. And as I say, we will sort of over the next few months put together a structured way of sharing the information properly. So whenever anyone shares anything, it will go into that, and we can probably do a quick note out to everyone. And I think possibly at our next meeting, we sort of give more of a formal response as to exactly how we're going to do that. Because I think these meetings have always been about sharing your information and your experiences, making the connections that you can follow out of the meeting. So as I said, we'll put this system together and very much communicate it. I think really we're coming to a close there, but I suppose what I would ask is, before we go on to the next meeting, is while people have the opportunity of this group together, has anyone else got any questions or requests that they might have in terms of information that would be useful? It's a good opportunity to do that now.
I'd take that as a no, Richard.
Yep, I think so. Yeah. Okay.
So, but of course, everyone's a very welcome, and I know we do. It happens anyway. It's very welcome to reach out in between these meetings and ask for any help or for any information regarding whatever challenges you're dealing with at the time. So the idea is for this group to be very connected as a community beyond just these meetings, and when we get together in person, which is always a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm sure we can all reach out in between as well.
Yeah, and we didn't mention it earlier. We have our monthly global call. Our next one is the 18th, isn't it, Mark?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Just double check the date, but I'm pretty sure it's the 18th. Yeah. Yeah, 18th at 1 p.m. UK time.
And I think just as a sort of a taster, we're hoping to have, well, Rochelle will be doing a presentation on South Africa and the South African market, and Lek will be doing something on the Polish market. So, and obviously there'll be the familiar updates, and everyone's got an opportunity to share what's happening with them.
Right. And so can we just confirm the date for the next meeting again, Richard?
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah.
December the 10th.
So, yep, December 10th, which is a Tuesday. So hopefully everyone can, will we send out an invite after this meeting and get it into the diaries early?
Mark will send out.
I'll send it out within the next 24 hours, definitely, yeah.
Fantastic. Excellent.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. It's good to see you all. And if we don't speak to you between now and the 10th of December, we shall see you then.
Well,
the best. We'll see you in Milan.
Hopefully we'll see many of you in Milan.
Absolutely, yeah.
Kill you, Tim.
Stop sharing, Richard, can you?
See you later, guys. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks so much, guys. Take care.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Elizabeth.
Bye. Bye. Cheers.
Bye.